Hello, everybody. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
How's it going?
Going very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm Fabs from the PicMonkey team for all of you who have joined us. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm here with Cynthia, who's going to be talking all about branding. Cynthia, can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you're such an expert in personal branding?
Yeah, so I started my background's in social media and SEO, and I ended up in a situation where I could apply personal branding to corporate-wide initiatives and also for myself. And I realized I was like, wow, this is pretty cool because you can accomplish so many goals by just sort of putting yourself out there and in an organized way. And so I left this company I was at with my co-founder, and we created a personal branding agency, which is now a full service marketing agency. So we do it for teams, so employee branding and personal branding. And I wrote a book about personal branding, which was published in February this year with Penguin Random House. And yeah, I speak pretty much in the past couple years. I've been to I think just under 40 different countries speaking on the topic. So it's been a whirlwind of encouraging people to really figure out who they are and get them to understand how to present themselves in a way that benefits not only them but everything that they touch. So that's what I'm
Amazing.
about. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's spread some good news here with our attendees. I know you have some great presentations for us, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to see it.
Awesome. Well, I will share this presentation to start. Let's see. Okay. So the way that I'm presenting this, and just so everyone knows, there will be links at the end where you can get more like step-by-step how-to guides. But I think what was always helpful to me with understanding personal branding, especially when you're figuring out your messaging and your style, is to apply it to real brands because we're all familiar with how real brands exist and operate. And so this is the outline of what we'll discuss today. And we're going to get into a little bit about what the difference is between branding and marketing, because there are actually significant differences, and it tends to overlap in our minds a lot. We think, oh, wow, I'm doing this thing. This is all branding. It's like, actually, that's marketing. The branding part has to happen first, and it has to influence all of the marketing initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into that, and then the framework of what does it look like and how do you sort of figure out where you fit in the landscape of everything you're trying to do.
Awesome.
Um, so
And if anybody has any questions at any
yeah,
point, feel free to jump in.
um, so the purpose of branding is to be recognized and understood and to easily stand out. And this is so important because what tends to happen, and we saw this a lot with, Gary Vee put out a bunch of images with of himself with quotes on it from himself, and it became a really popular thing, and it's still popular now. But it's really hard to stand out doing the exact same thing that someone else started,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're trying to fit into the same space that they exist in. So for marketers,
Totally.
you now just fall under the Gary Vee sort of landscape versus
Mm-hmm.
creating your own, and being slightly different in your approach.
Yeah.
Uh, the purpose of marketing, right, what what sort of Gary Vee did. Is he said, I have a unique message and I'm going to put it on these quote pictures and promote out in marketing. And so even if your marketing and your branding aren't aligned, so your branding is how are you different, what makes you unique. So you might be very different from Gary Vee, but if you're taking the same approach in marketing yourself, again in the same space, that's where it collides. And to build a strong brand, you have to have a strong, unique value add, and it has to be delivered in a way that matches the brand that you've created.
And for those of you who don't know who Gary Vee is, definitely check him out on Instagram.
Yeah, he's very
For
intense.
reference. He's intense and
So
inspirational at
intense. He
times.
is, yes, and really actually very approachable too. I think if you message him, he'll respond. Um, so here's branding. This is when I think of branding, right? It's the saying of, sometimes you have to kneel to stand out. And it's because it's not about forcibly doing things to push your way through. It's about having a really specific goal and then doing something to achieve it and building a message around that. So if people understand why you're doing something, you can pretty much do anything within reason, right? If they can get back to the why, it's like, oh, I understand that, Cynthia is trying to teach people about personal branding and support her agency, which also does personal branding for people. So then everything I do kind of falls under that. Whereas you look at something like, what is PicMonkey trying to do? They're trying to make design simpler and easier and better for people in the world. And so it makes sense why they would have these webinars. And so getting that core focus down just allows you to really branch out and do crazy things that go viral like this. I mean, obviously, he's got a little bit of a platform. This is also branding, right? So the collaboration of these two things, Nike, and Colin, they're what create brand recognition. Nike is now saying, I believe in this. And then anybody who posted this on their social media is now basically signing up for that same ideology. They're saying, I took a side. And so this is what a really strong brand would be. So if you're, whether it's, political or not political, or if it's maybe you take a picture with Gary Vee, or you share a stage with Gary Vee, or you share a stage with Oprah, right? That brand collaboration, it speaks a lot about you because one person's brand is so strong that together they sort of share the ideology. But when it's posted, this is marketing, right? Because if this same image was posted in a place where it was clearly not appreciated, it's still marketing. It's just having the opposite effect, right? So we want to think of marketing as when you do the big brand things, when you step on stage and you take that photo with someone, or you create a really nice piece of content that has very specific goals. Wherever it ends up and how it gets out is the marketing that you'll do for your brand.
Super interesting.
Yeah, and it's really easy to confuse it. It's like the why is always the brand, the how to get it out there. Or in some cases, I think of it as, and I said this at our event, it's kind of like going on a date. It's like one person really gets dressed up and the other person is like, well, let me take you out and pay for you. Like, that's the difference between branding and marketing.
So the one who's getting dressed up
is the brand.
Branding, and the one who's taking them out is the marketing.
It's like, and that's the fun thing about branding and why it's so important to not confuse the two, because that's the artistic part. Like that's the fun parts where you get to say, like, this is what I believe in, this is what it looks like, this is how loud I am. And when you look at I don't know if anyone is familiar with sort of the brand archetypes, but basically brand archetypes break out brand into different types of personalities, or you could say energies, right? And they all fall into just sort of these families. I tend to live in the outlaw space, which is kind of funny. And there's online tests that I'll share after this that you can take, and it will actually help you figure out where you fall. And then it gives you like very clear outlines of like why it's this way, and even some structure around helping you create your brand message, because the brand archetypes are not about what you're doing, right? They're about why you're doing it. And so if you're a marketing person, right, maybe you're a marketing person who believes that, it's like artists need to be the forefront of it. So it's a very different approach than someone who, say, is more like a scientist type person or a caregiver that works only in nonprofits. They're all doing marketing, but they're all doing it for different reasons, and that's how it informs everything else that you do and who your brand is at its core.
And what would like the quiz for this consist of? Like what makes up your brand archetype?
It actually is more of a personality quiz. So it'll ask things like, if you won $1 million tomorrow, what would you do with it?
Right.
And it kind of figures out just what your essence is. And the one that I found I've had a few different people take it, and what comes up is so obvious to everyone else around them,
Mm-hmm.
because who you are and how you approach things is very obvious to most people. And with personal branding, you have to be objective about yourself, and that's hard to do. And so getting feedback from other people when you get these results, or you start to create, the outline and design of what your brand is also important, because there's who you are, there's who you think you are, and then there's who you are on the internet. And they very rarely align unless you've put some time and effort into figuring that out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I think I'm a social media marketer. I'm on the social media team at PicMonkey, and I think I'm so in there with my job. Like it's such a brand, like I think social media is such a powerful like brand space that I started seeing people as like a personal brand, whether they know it or not. Like whoever I follow, I'm like, this is their personal brand, and I categorize them like myself as a marketer, like in a person, like in a specific way. So that's super interesting.
It's definitely interesting. And the when you're not managing your personal brand, or right, it's like, oh, let me look this person up in a different area, and then it's kind of like scattered. It changes your perspective, and so there's opportunity lost sometimes that we don't even realize, because we
Right.
haven't done the foundational building.
Very cool. And you'll be sharing that quiz?
Yes, I'll share that quiz.
Cool. Awesome.
Okay, so this deck is built for my company, Bell and Ivy, their brand. And then this over here, this versus Psychology of Color, is what I think of more my personal brand. They align to some degree with lots of use of green, because green represents growth and optimism and consistency. And those are things and values that I really feel passionate about and align with. Because if you have to grow, right? And so Bell and Ivy is make noise and growth. And so when you're looking at your personal brand and the design of it, it's not just about what am I like. And I see a lot of people focusing on what their Instagram posts go out as, and that's great. But if the profile of your brand in all of those different areas is not aligned and doesn't have a message on its own, because that's what everyone will see. That is the first thing. And so the posts, first of all, the reach is declining and all these things. Regardless, less people see those posts anyway. So you want to start by figuring out, what does my personal brand look like, and why does it need to look that way? Why are you going with, a pink versus a purple? Are you, someone who's, interested in talking about, fitness? What colors? What is it? Is it self-love? Is it, if it's marketing, is it more of like a Steve Jobs marketing, or it's just like black and white? And then you want to make sure that there's consistency across the board. And the same is with your headshot. So you look at the design and then look at the headshot, and actually PicMonkey has some amazing tools that help you, very easily plug this in so you can see it before you apply it to your social media pages. And that is important. And then understanding, what are my brand colors? What is my brand font, right? If you want to get really creative, because you can do that. You can change your font. Asking yourself, do I use emojis or do I not use emojis? That's a brand decision. These are things that when you're looking at your profile bios and the design on all of your platforms, you really want to take into consideration. And then ask people what they think. And when you make the change, do it all at once and not slowly. So change all of your platforms at the same time, because it should be a brand shift. So that way, if someone sees you on Facebook, then they see you on LinkedIn, and then they run into you on Instagram. It's the same visually. it'll have the same impact that regular brands have, where people start to feel like they're seeing you everywhere and they're not quite sure why. And so if you're trying to spread awareness and do it with, a focus, the best way to do it is to design it all out and have it look very, very similar.
That's awesome. When you're tying, because you said something interesting, you said your brand versus Belle and Ivy's brand. A lot of people I know are building a brand for a business, and they're building out social channels for businesses or websites or anything. And a lot of times what I've been seeing a lot is in the bio, you link back to the founder or you link back to yourself. So how consistent do you think those two branding, like that, like my personal brand and whatever business I've founded in there, like those two, a lot of times I see them tied together. Do you think that there has to be consistency there, or do you feel like it should just be two separate entities?
So there's always, if you're a founder of a company, right? You're at least in the beginning, you're pulling from yourself, your own ideology, and the brand has different goals, sure, but where it came from was an awareness of the founders, and it came from the perspective of the founders. And so I think in the beginning, it is important to have some consistency between the founders and the brand. It doesn't have to be completely exclusive, right? So I do have a bit of a shift in what Belle and Ivy is, but structurally it is very similar. Some of the colors are very similar, the fonts are very similar. And the reason is that people, especially in the early stages, they kind of need to understand why you care about your business and why your business, like what your business represents for you. So it's storytelling. It's almost as if Stephen King started writing fairy tales for children. You would be like, wait, what? It's so off brand for you.
Yeah.
And that's why, yeah, so there has to be some consistency. And then with the linking, I look at everything as there has to be intent. It has to be a decision, because not making a decision or not having intent is still a decision. And it's very obvious to people. We're becoming really smart. We're online all the time. If you want to know like how much you're online, just check your screen time on your phone. It's painful. So yeah, so we're getting to be really savvy. So yeah, I do think there has to be consistency in the story across both.
We have a question. Sure. It's now a good time to answer. Okay, cool. It's from Heather, and she says, what if I work for a company but I want to brand myself? Would I put my brand on all of the content posted on LinkedIn, Twitter, ebooks, etc., or would I put my real company's logo on it, or both?
So I started building my brand while working in a company, and what I did is, first and foremost, is to remember that you are what you do first, not who you do it for. So we do branding and marketing for lots of different companies, but that doesn't define us, right? The act of doing and why you're interested in doing it does. So I always say, don't ignore where you're at, but don't go so far as to put their logo on it, right? You can say that you work in this place and you do this thing, because the focus has to be that you are, if you look at a company, for instance, you could highlight every single employee as an expert in different field. So you have an expert at, Google Ads, an expert CEO, an expert, whatever it is, and they all just happen to come together in this job. But if you left the job, you're still going to be doing that thing, most likely. So I'd say focus it more around your expertise and job history, and then, where you currently work, make that secondary. And I wish you could talk to me. Yeah. I was like, give feedback. Yeah. Oh, and also, if company has a hard time with you doing this, I'd say quit, because it's really not fair. It really is not fair to limit opportunity for people. And if you're limiting what employees are doing online in this world that we live in right now, then you're definitely limiting their future, opportunities, because everything we do online says something about us, and everything we're not doing says something about us too. And so just, do it within reason, read the company's guidelines on social media, but I would definitely not worry too much about what they have to say. So as long as it's positive.
From Heather, that helps. Thanks.
Yeah.
That helps me too. It's I'm with you on that.
Yeah. But, so this is like very wordy, and I'm sure, people will be able to read this afterwards, but just figuring out your brand archetype. Obviously, I will send that link. This is good to think about, but there's so many tools just that can help just at least give you attention or raise awareness about what your current situation is online. And that is everything from checking out how social media platforms are categorizing you in their advertising. That'll tell you a lot about how other people think of you online. And then I will, again, give you a link to where there's more tools to figure this out.
Speaking of social, we have a question from Erica, and she's saying that if you're a lifestyle blogger and YouTuber, how do you really brand that? I say it out loud, and of course, you can see it on my channel and blog, but how do I brand that?
Yeah, so what is it that I guess what you're really doing? Because lifestyle, yeah. What is your specific life? Like, what is it? Finding your focus within the focus, and making that maybe a little bit more forward. So, for instance, when I started, my first personal brand was all about social media, and specifically social media for people that worked in boring companies and no one was telling them what to do. So there's apparently a lot of people that work at companies that don't have, they don't have very exciting topics, and they're doing social media. And so I found sort of my within that niche industry. And then if you're looking at lifestyle, like what specifically about you is like the big differentiator, and make that the focus.
Yeah.
Because there's people looking for it, guaranteed. And ask around too. Ask your audience, ask your parents and the people that spend a lot of time with you, and they'll have, to be honest, they'll probably have a better idea than you will, because they're watching you and they know you, and they're not in the day-to-day. Sometimes when we're like in it, it becomes really hard to see it for what it is. And so I would say, yeah, just it's lifestyle blogging secondary, but the difference is this.
It's your lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I follow a lot of lifestyle bloggers, and I follow them not because it's because of theirs. It's because of their lifestyle. Like, I'm so interested in like what they're doing and like what they're wearing and where they're going and how they're going there and like how they did it. There's like a lot of passion behind it. So I think if you focus on the passion side of like blogging and like why you're doing it, I think that like your brand will be loud and clear. And that's why people will follow you and engage with you.
Exactly. And sometimes it's even figuring out the thing that most lifestyle people are doing that you're not. Like, you're like, this is why I'm different, because I'm not going to tell you to get up every morning at 5 o'clock. Like that, like people will be like, okay, I want to hang out with her because I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock ever. And so whatever, it could be something that small, but just, highlighting whatever makes you unique within that space. I hope that helps. Yeah. And then this is where this could actually help too when you're talking about lifestyle, because again, the lifestyle blogging is what you're doing. Why you're doing it can be different for many people. And this is our brand for Belle and Ivy, and it's an example of kind of like how to piece a brand together. I didn't put my personal one up here because I don't typically share that. So it's my own passion. No, but you can look at it can be applied to your personal brand just as much as a company. So when you look at the results you get, this can really help figure out why. If let's take lifestyle blogging for instance, right? Your promise: if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Okay, got it. Knowledge of how the world works, goal to make dreams come true. So if you're someone who's focused in this area, you might tend to focus on things like the science of lifestyle branding, like why it works, making it very statistical versus big picture. Or maybe your, when you talk about your motivation is mastery, if this was your personal brand, right? So you're saying, here are some things I figured out, some fun facts. Like, we're going to do it differently. We're going to do it without spending, $5,000 a month on some food company to send you your food. I'm going to show you how to do it a different way. So you can kind of look at how your archetype informs what you're doing and then narrow down that messaging. It's really fun when you get into it. And then also there you can buy books for, next to nothing on Amazon that are all about this, like workbooks and stuff. So
Awesome.
okay. So the framework for your personal brand is like, what's your brand category? Great. That would be lifestyle blogging. I'm sorry, Erica, I'm going to use you for everything right now. So lifestyle blogging, key services and products. So is your lifestyle blogging, is it focused on moms? Is it focused on food? Is it exercise? What is your key message? Who are the people similar to you? This is really important because it's not, it's personal branding. It's not about figuring out who's similar to you so that you can compete with them, because I truly do believe there's always room at the top, right? And you don't usually know that, so you get there, but there is, and that you can make people more like allies than competition, really, and share that brand equity. So what you want to know why they're similar is because you want to figure out why you're different again, and just highlight that. And then the key stakeholders. So who's really involved in your brand? So if your lifestyle is focused on mom, right? You're being a mom. Well, then key stakeholders are your family. They're involved. Like, their life becomes your story. Or maybe it's focused on how do you be an executive and also do all of these other things. Well, then your past work and the people you work with are key stakeholders at that point. So whoever's part of your story, I would consider a key stakeholder. And then the next thing is, what is your purpose, right? Why do you do this? And your vision is, what do you see changing in the world because you're doing it? And that could be your world, it could be the world of the people that are following you. And then you're mission driven, the big picture, like, okay, my mission is to do this for these individuals, and your core values. So for instance, one of my big visions is I would like to see more education about internet all over the world. I think that we should get rid of home economics and go straight to teaching kids about internet. Right? And my mission is to encourage people to do that, and to really, learn more and question things through unbiased education, and through using the tools that you have right at your fingertips, and not necessarily looking to traditional style of education to learn those, because that's how we'll get to that change, right? And then core values. It's, is it transparency? Is it, and there's, lists of different types of core values. And it's basically just the things that your brand really, really cares about. And for lifestyle, it could be, health and wellness. It could be, your career. Like, all of those core values can fit into your brand. And so I would pick 3 of them and just have them in the back of your mind. And to be honest, people don't necessarily need to know what these are. But when you're deciding and making decisions for your brand, you can sit and say, okay, is what I'm going to do next actually going to help me get to my mission? Does it actually align with my core values? And if it doesn't, then don't do it. And not because you want to be this, like, superior person, but actually because that's what branding is. You have to keep that consistency going so people know what to expect and what they're getting out of you. And then the most important part, right? Your personality. You have to have some personality in there. Like, if you're someone who makes jokes, don't stop making jokes because, most people in your work, they don't do that. Think about what that culture is, the real lifestyle. The people that really succeed in this, they understand who their audience is. They understand the culture of it. If you want to talk about, a Gary Vee, or someone who's done a really good job recently at personal branding, is Reese Witherspoon. So she's become this, like, she was just kind of an actress, a good one, and then now she's this, like, like super mom, like feminist. She's like a hybrid of like Martha Stewart and Ellen DeGeneres. I can't decide, but
Hmm.
she's like really like made space for herself in what seemed to be a kind of oversaturated space, because she's doing a, organizing your home Netflix show, I think. So just like the brand personality and understanding what that as you're growing and getting older, so is your audience, and making those proper shifts and understanding the culture of what that really means. Um,
But it's amazing because I feel like people with a strong personal brand, it doesn't even matter what the personal brand is or what their message is or what their passion is. If they have a strong personal brand, I feel like I'm automatically like addicted to them. Like if I land on
mhm.
somebody's page who has a strong personality and a strong personal brand, I'm like stuck scrolling like for it doesn't even matter what it is. Like it doesn't matter if like I'm aligned or not. I'm just like so like wow, this person so this person. Like it's so
Yeah.
clear to me who they are, and I am so like automatically engaged. It's amazing. And Reese Witherspoon is an amazing example of that for sure.
Yes. I mean, she really, that's another really mind blowing what she's been able to do. Because most people, a lot of people, you become as famous as she is, and then you just do kind of whatever you want to do. You
Hmm.
don't have to care about things, but she does, and she partners with some really big names to do it. So it's impressive. Um, yeah, and someone else who did this is thinking about like growing your brand and understanding the culture and the audience, and the shift is, Martha Stewart, when she went through that sort of brand crisis, she became really popular, and to like sort of these like anarchists out there, right? And she made a huge shift, and she started backing a bunch of cannabis companies. I mean, she understood that her audience had grown and shifted, and she just went for it. And so she's kind of this like spearhead of change in that space now. It's really interesting. So so it can go both ways.
Hmm.
Um, so I quickly just want to go through the differences between marketing and branding. So one of these products is focused on marketing. They're focused on sales. And the other one is a brand. And when you look at, not that twisty shoots, or I think that's what they're called, are, any less of a value than Oreos. Most people would buy Oreos uh, just for the simple fact of what they represent to us, right? They represent the brand, which the brand message is dipping Oreos with your grandfather, family, twisting it off. That whole message of like making it part of your day. And when you're thinking about this in personal branding, that's the difference between someone who, let's say, is building a personal brand. They're like they're a salesperson, or maybe they're a marketer, and the goal is more so focused on short term, and the short term goal is not building a community, it's sales. So that they get creative on it, product placement, like maybe you're on LinkedIn in the right time, maybe you have a bot, you're doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but building a brand is when people think of that topic, when
That's what
they think of you.
yeah.
And so long term, it's a bit better strategy, but again, it's a more difficult strategy, a more thoughtful one.
But would you agree that branding is more an emotion? Like the goal is more of an emotional goal, and the marketing is more of like an action, or are they like both? They tie
Yeah.
into each other?
So with a purely marketed brand, it's more about, like, if we take the cookies for instance, or even a salesperson, it's, I wanted a cookie, so I bought this cookie, or I needed insurance, so I went and I found insurance, and the salesperson popped up, and they were there, and that's marketing.
Hmm.
Branding is, I
It's like
want
trust.
yeah, I want to have a memory. I want to, twist this cookie off with someone. I want to be I'm getting it because I know this person will love it. It's sort of inserting yourself into a process, so that you become a thought leader on it. It's not just about having a cookie. It's about having the best cookie with the people you love. Or it's not about
Right.
having, buying insurance. It's about knowing that it's the best insurance with
You're gonna be safe.
yeah, you're going to be taken care of because you trust it. And you trust it because there was more effort put into it. And that's the key. Okay, so all right, so marketing is for the business. Marketing and branding is for your customers. So if you're building a community, a lifestyle brand, for instance, then you have to build a brand because you want regular people coming back and trusting you for the thing you're giving them, which is lifestyle advice or tools or tips. Marketing is for the business. It's to make money. It's to get to the next thing. And so that would be running Facebook ads, but, on the one thing you created and just getting sales over and over again versus, creating that YouTube channel that you put content out weekly and you have an audience that's engaged. This is an example of marketing for the business. This is a marketing product. This is branding, right? This is beautiful, literally my favorite branding I've ever seen in my life. No, but it's like they don't even. The wine doesn't even have a name. It's just original red blend house wine. But it's beautiful. They knew their audience. They listened. And they're like, oh, you know what? They really like this, and they like it together. And when you think about personal branding, you're thinking like, oh, for instance, with my focus was on social media and social media for SEO. And then I realized that personal branding could be applied to all of this. And so you look at it from, or even this is a better perspective, when talking about personal branding, I realized my audience were people with jobs. And people with jobs do not have time to really videotape themselves all day and like Tony Robbins says, like jump in a cold bath at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like you don't have time for that. And so it's changing the message to fit the audience, even though you're talking about something that's very similar to what other people have discussed before. And then what it does, marketing cultivates customers and branding builds customer loyalty. So this shoe is marketed, right? This shoe is branding. Because when you buy this shoe, you feel like you're doing something good. And the group of people that buy these shoes want to do good things in the world. They want their purchases to matter. And so you tap into that audience of, oh, wow, this is amazing. And this is why when you see people that have personal brands promote something, a charity or not charity, right? It works really well sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't work well at all. And it has everything to do with how that audience sort of what they believe in and their focus on that subject. So an example of this would be like, Martha Stewart, for instance. She made that shift because she realized she had a very big audience, and her old audience maybe thought she was a little bit criminal. And when she made the shift into talking more about cannabis, she definitely lost a big portion of her old fan base because they don't believe in that. But she gained so much of a new fan base, and she was already losing the other one, that that decision made sense for her. So when you're tying yourself to anything like philanthropic, really look at, because you can support lots of causes, and you should always support what you believe in, but just have an awareness of what you're tying yourself to, and understand it thoroughly, because there's your audience will let you know if they have an opinion about it. And if you don't have an answer to their questions, that's where it becomes, sort of a fake feeling, like, there's an assumption you're maybe getting paid for it. And that's not what you want. You want to really align yourself with something you truly, fully understand, so you can explain it to your audience just like completely and have no reservations about the response. And then marketing will showcase the benefits. So marketing is, you're going to get at the end of this webinar these links to where you can get guides on how to do all this stuff by yourself. Branding is the dream, right? If you do this and you focus and you pay attention closely and you get the foundation built, and how you do it is all marketing. I'll market that to you all day long. But the branding is, think about how much you can achieve. Think about if you're being heard and there's real competition out there, and you are now an expert and being recognized as the expert you are, and all the fake people that are sort of just really good at marketing are removed, and we start having real conversations about these topics. Like, about how different the world would be. Think about how big your brand could be. I mean, that's the big picture. All the little stuff, the little benefits, that's the marketing part, where it's like, and here's everything you'll get that you can do by yourself. But branding is it's the big picture. What is it that you want? What is it that if 3 years from now you're still doing this, where should you be? That's branding. Showcase and highlight. So the benefits. This is Apple marketing an iPhone about privacy, oddly, because they're saying, yeah, privacy is so important. But this is branding, right? Using an iPhone represents thinking differently. It represents thinking bigger. It's a different world, right? We can all be connected. We can all do it with phones that don't look like the other phones. We can have that sleek vibe. And then this is personal branding. Oprah just jumped right on the train, right? She was like, look at, she's wearing the Steve Jobs like vibe of the black and white, done her style, and that's that's the crossover. She doesn't get involved with brands that don't align with her, and when she does, and this is she's epic at this, that the brand benefits tremendously. We saw this with when she became like a shareholder in Weight Watchers. They got over 1 trillion free ad impressions because her brand was already about weight loss and transparency and just doing it the right way. And so when she tied herself to something that could do all of the things she's been talking about for so long, it just blew up, became the thing. It would never have had the same effect, as even with Apple. I would in this case say that Oprah was lucky to be there with Apple and not the other way around, which is crazy. It's probably the only moment that's ever happened for her. And then the influences, right? So marketing, they influences immediate decision making. It's why you click on things in Facebook ads, or it's why you sign up for stuff in an email. You're like, oh, I think I need that. But branding is you're looking for it, you're waiting for it. Like you're not just waiting. It doesn't just come to you and you're like, oh, I think I could learn that. It's like, oh, this person put something out. I have to be there. I have to know more. And here's just some examples, right? It's like right place, right time, sell a bunch of things. But with branding, it's you want to be there. You feel like part of your life has changed and is different, and that's what you really want to focus for your audience, is that being here, you're going to be different. You're going to be able to walk away and feel changed in some way. And that part creates relationships. And then this is kind of funny, right? So this is marketing. This is random guidance under it. It's the stock photography we see on every website. Also, just the kind of bland. It doesn't have that personalized touch, but you need underwear. But then you have branding. And you want they're the same underwear. They're literally the same brand of underwear. But because, he's holding them and you might like this, it's amazing to see like how that sort of aligns. And so when you're connecting with, I can't even stop laughing, when you're connecting with other brands to do projects like this, like for instance, working with PicMonkey is amazing because we have a branding course that comes out, and you're showing people how to build brands, quickly and on their own without having to spend a fortune and still being able to have impact and not being able to take forever. And PicMonkey is such a perfect tool for that. That it was like the alignment made so much sense. And this is obviously the same. He needs underwear. He's very sporty.
They're aligned.
Yeah, they're aligned. But yeah, so the core message here is that your brand should always dictate your marketing, and not the other way around. If the marketing feels off-brand, if putting out little Facebook videos that are very clickbaity is not something that aligns with your brand, take the slower approach and do it the right way. It's really what you'll lose by trying to make quick changes or quick brand updates is really not worth what you'll gain by doing and targeting people inappropriately. And keep in touch. So this is only a 45-minute session, and want to tell everyone, if you go to my website, it's cynthialive.com, and that's a /platform, PLATFORM. There are actually about 10 different guides that'll walk you through a lot of the different things we touched on here. And then I will drop the links for the brand archetypes and anything else we discussed here. Fab, we can go through it and maybe just send it out in an email, or what's the best way?
Yeah, we can definitely follow up with these links in an email. And you actually, with Cynthia, we can send you a link that you can get for the attendees today. You guys can get a PicMonkey discount using her link. So a PicMonkey is obviously from PicMonkey. I love PicMonkey. I'm going to talk about PicMonkey, but it really is an amazing tool for personal branding or for branding your business. Just having all of your assets there, building on your personality, really, because that's what your personal brand is. It makes it really easy to have all of your fonts and your colors and all of that. And I know that a lot of your guides talk about that, Cynthia. So it's all really, really helpful, and it's okay to one day decide like you really, really, really want to focus on your personal branding. People are going to see it and they're going to feel it and they're going to probably like it. Or maybe you lose a few, gain a few, but I think what Cynthia said is really important. It's important to like believe in something and like back that up and be consistent with it. And you'll see how strong like your personal brand will become and how closely people will follow along, especially the people who are aligned.
Yeah, exactly. And be fearless. Reach out. You can reach out to me, Cynthia at cynthialive.com. Ask questions, ask for advice, just ask. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is the other person says no, and you just end up right back where you started. So I always feel like even if it's for feedback, you go into PicMonkey, you create this beautiful brand style guide, and you want to know if it works. If like put it out there and say, if you saw this, what would you think my brand represented? And do like a little, maybe multiple choice question for them and see if it's accurate. Feedback is in the very beginning when you're building the foundation of your brand. It's so important.
I've had moments in my life where I post so much about one specific thing, and I have two sisters, and I'm always like, am I annoying? Like, am I being annoying? And they're like, no, like, it's who you are. Like, they both responded. They're like, no, that's you. Like, that's what you believe in. So definitely be who you are and like do and say what you believe in. That's really good advice, Cynthia. Well, thank you so much. This was all such good information. I just learned so much. And I'm sure everybody else did too. Again, we'll follow up an email with a replay and with the links, and reach out to Cynthia or to PicMonkey. We're here. So thank you all so much for joining, and thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you so much. Good luck, everybody. Bye.
Bye.